Hi, this is part 2. In part 1, we went over the code for the login page. This might look a little different because I tweaked the CSS styles. One thing I noticed was before I changed the font family, do you see how that A is? We are creating this site for kindergartners who are learning how to read and write. So I needed something that gave me an A that looks like this A for apple and this A for cat, not this strange A. So I wound up looking up font families, and all these font families, just about all of them except for Comic Sans MS. You see, this gives us a regular looking lowercase a. All the rest give this fancier looking A, not the kind of A that they're teaching kids in kindergarten. So one of the changes that I made was definitely to use Comic Sans MS as the font family. That was one thing. A few other things maybe, let's see what else. I had an issue with the way I was centering this. It was working okay in some web browsers, but in others this was extra long and didn't look right at all. So I did change how I centered. If I can find the dot centered, this is what I did for that. But I'll go over all of the code with all the new changes. All right. What I want to go over right now is not the whole home page, but just the individual A page. But for review, let me show you how I get that. Here's again the login page, and you could either type in U and P for the username and password. The other option that I had is you could type in Lisa for the username with a capital L and Green with a capital G as the password. That also worked. Anything else that you plop in here for username and password, you get error, password, or username, this alert box that won't let you proceed. One good thing that you could use with this type of login is, let's say you were going through a progression of quizzes or a progression of study units. You wouldn't have the permission to bounce from page to page to page in any random order. You may have to wait until you get through a certain lesson, at which time you may get an alert box that tells you what your username or password is, and then you might get a box like this that requires you to put a username and a password, or just a password, in order to proceed to the next level. So that might be one idea. You don't necessarily have to use this, but if you did want to use it for whatever purposes, that's why I did it. So I showed you what an error looks like, and you could also type in U and P, and that proceeds you to the home page. The home page on the left side has this green area that has three different ways to navigate. First of all, you have a drop-down list here. You can click on any of these letters from A to Z, and that'll open up the corresponding page. Or you can click any of these image links that are in a table, and that will also open up a corresponding page. Or you have an unordered list right here, and each of these letters are list items, and the LI tag, which means list item, is styled to look kind of like a button. These are not buttons, they're just list items that appear like buttons. There's a JavaScript that controls the ability of these list items and the ability of the drop-down list options to open up the corresponding web pages in this pink area, which is actually a styled iframe. Okay, so what you see here is a navigation area and an iframe. That's what home.html represents. When you actually click on one of these, any of these, to open up the A page, if you select the option here from the drop-down list, this right here is the A.html page. If I click on an image, now that opened the B.html page. If I go down all the way down here to the list item and click C, so you see the three different methods of navigation all work. They're all functioning and they all open up the corresponding web pages in this iframe. The code I want to go over right now, instead of this home.html that has the navigation on the left and the iframe on the right, I want to focus on just one of these alphabet pages. Let's look at the code for A. So let me close out of this, let me close out of the login page, close out of this again. This is what the A page looks like, and you can see up here in the address bar, the name of the file at the end of this whole path is A.html. A, B, C, all the way to Z, all these individual web pages are created exactly the same. The only thing that is different is the picture over here on the right and the words on the left and the MP3 files that go to the particular page that you're on. Each individual page also has a backward link and a forward link that gives us a fourth way to navigate through this. So if you click backward and you're already on the A page, if you click backward, where do you think that's going to take you? Well, it's going to take you to the end of the alphabet list. So it's going to take you to Z. Click backward again, what comes before Z? Y. If you forward to A again, and now you're going to click forward again, after A is what? B. After B is C. Okay, so you see how those work. So in the home.html page, you have three ways to navigate in an iframe. And in each individual web page that stands for a particular letter, you also have another way to navigate, a backward and forward link. Okay, so let me go backward to A because I want to show the code and the page side by side. Move this out of the way. I'm just going to read the code first from top to bottom and then show you this, and then I'll pull up the CSS last because I think it'll make the flow quicker if I just stay on one file at a time instead of bouncing back and forth. HTML head. This links to our style sheet, which I will go over the style sheet I'll put that up there. I guess I can put them all there. Okay. This points to this style sheet. Actually, I guess I can go back and forth a little bit. In the style sheet, the style for the body is this. Background color black, margin 0 pixels auto, padding 10 pixels, text align center, color white, and this is what I was explaining, font family, Comic Sans MS. Now, to show you why I had to find that font family, let's take it off. Now notice our image, our uppercase A and our lowercase a. Without me using Comic Sans as the font family and I refresh the page, you're expecting a kindergartner to look at an A made like this and then an A made like this. And that's going to cause some confusion. So I needed to find the font family with this A. Okay, so it's all about the details, especially if you're talking about new learners, whether it's kindergartners or anything else. You got to really think about the details and think about the fact that you're talking to someone who potentially doesn't have a clue. So you want to make it easy on them. All right, so there was our body style. Let's go back to the A page. Here's the way that we link to the script. Script type equals text / JavaScript, source equals ... / JS / sound.js. I don't know if I explained the ... but our A.html, look, if I go to the beginning of this, okay, if I go to, actually let's make it this way, let's go to the desktop. I have a folder called Kids Page ABCs, Kids Page ABCs. In that folder, I have an index page. That is my login page, okay? If I double click it, you'll see that login page that I showed you. This is the login page, okay? And then I have a box that has images. If you open it up, there's a ton of images. Go back to box, there's a JS that has one sound.js JavaScript file. I could right click and hit edit with Notepad. If I go back to box, I have another folder called pages. If I open that up, that has the A.html page all the way down to the Z.html page, and it also has the home.html page. So all my pages are put in this folder called pages. I have a folder called sound. If you open that, you see a whole slew of MP3 files. And so this is how I point to any of the MP3 files that I recorded. Go back to box, and in styles, I have 3 style sheets. I'm only dealing with style.css right now. I'm not dealing with pink and purple, just regular old style.css. My point is, you have to navigate in and out of folders to go in and out of other folders to get to the final file that you're trying to access. So when I have ... and I'm on A.html, that means I am A.html and I am in a folder called pages. ... means I'm jumping out of that folder. The / means I'm jumping into another folder. This folder is called styles. And then inside of that folder, I'm looking for style.css. That's my final destination that I'm picking, that I'm linking to. Same thing right here. To point to and select, pick out, access, however you want to think about it. My JavaScript file, I have to jump out of my pages folder, jump into the JS folder so that I can access sound.js. That's how that works. End of head, and now the beginning of the body. Let me bring my example back up. All of this page consists of is a table and stuff inside the table. So we have a table with a class of chunky. Okay, let's look up chunky. And since it's a class, it's going to be .chunky. So look right here for .chunky. .center, .backward, .forward, .ddl color, menu link, UL, form, iframe, round set, or roundest, chunky, .chunky. This means class chunky. .chunky means class chunky. But what we're trying to deal with is every table data cell in the table. So we have this pseudo element called .chunky td. So in here, the only place I have to have the words class equals chunky is in the table. Any td that's inside of that particular table with that class is going to get that style. So this right here is going to be the style for all of these table data cells inside of the table. It's going to have a width of 23%. It's going to have a border of 0.25 EM outset blue, a background color of black, padding of 5 pixels, color of white, text align of left, and a font size of 25 pixels. Inside the first table row, bring that up here. The first table row of this table. Also I showed you the chunky for the TDs, but there's also something for just table, for just the table itself, right here. For just the table itself, this is the set of styles we have for the table itself. And that's basically what you're seeing. The whole, everything is in the table, but the table is nesting everything. So background color purple, border 10 pixels of purple outset, padding 3 pixels, border bottom left radius means this corner, and it's given a radius of 20 pixels, so it's slightly rounded. The top corners are not rounded at all, so they don't get a border radius. They're just the default sharp 90-degree corners. But the border bottom right radius was given 50 pixels. So this is just basically showing you that you can go with the default sharp edge corner. You can give it a border radius of slightly rounded. You can make the rounded even rounder. And this is how you would specify each individual corner. If you wanted all 4 corners to be the same, you would just say border radius and then give it pixels. But when you want to individualize each corner, you have to do it in this very detailed way. Border, bottom, right, radius, or border top, right, radius, or border bottom, left, radius, or border top, left, radius, or the way these two are. There's also a single style for all TDs, whether they belong to this particular chunky table or not, and all TDs will have a padding of 5 pixels. Okay. So in the first table row, we have a table data cell with a call span of 2. That means that this has the width of 2 columns. You have a column over here, you have a column over here. This takes up the span of both of those columns, which is why its call span equals 2. And inside it, we have A class equals backward, href equals z.html, the text backward, and the ending link. So this is a link that when you click on backward, it's going to take us to this page. And we have a class called backward and we have a class called forward. That way this stays to the left of this section, kind of it floats left, and this right here has a class that makes this float right. So let's look at those classes really quick in the style. Backward and forward is what we're looking for. I believe that's up here to the top. Right here. Class backward, we're getting color pink, float left. Class forward, we have color pink, float right. If you don't have these, if you do not have these, then let me show you what it looks like. That's what these links look like. They're all smashed together. They're automatically floating to the left, and there's very little space in between them. And also, there's not a very nice contrast with a black background. So by creating these special classes, we can manipulate how this looks on the page. Okay, so that's the end of that table data cell, which happens to be the end of that table row. We go to the next table row, right here. TD again with a call span of 2. So this next table data cell goes across 2 columns, call span 2. And inside here we have our audio control. Audio controls, and inside source, from here to here, source equals ... which means we're jumping out of the pages folder, we're jumping into the sound folder, and we're looking for A.mp3. Type equals audio/mpeg. And if you're using an old browser that does not use audio tags, then you'll get this error message. There's the end of the TD and the end of the TR. I have also styled this audio tag in the CSS. So if I look for audio right here, we have a background color of white, width of 100%, and opacity of 1.0. The reason I set the opacity is because when I was changing the background color, it seemed that it was taking up whatever color was behind it, and I thought that if I set the opacity to 1, that it would make the color better. I'll show you what I mean. If I set the audio to yellow, save it, and refresh the page, it really doesn't look yellow to me. It looks like it might be like a transparent yellow, like a tissue paper yellow over top of black, which kind of corrupts the color somewhat. But even though the opacity is 1.0, it still hasn't given this a nice bright yellow color. If I change this opacity to a zero point 0.5, anything between, like 10% to 90%, this is 0.5, you'll see that the opacity actually, it does make it even lighter. So my assumption was if you change it from a decimal to a whole number 1 for 100%, that it would give me that much brighter of a coloring, but it actually still, that doesn't really look like a bright yellow to me. And maybe the reason they have it with that slight transparency is so that it might blend in with whatever your web page colorization is, no matter what. It'll just kind of bleed into it. I really don't know, and I really don't care. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time with it. But this is just me showing you how you can colorize your audio tag. You can also make it red if you want, which is not going to be a bright red. It looks kind of more like if you had a tissue paper red over a black box. It makes it actually look a little kind of like on the maroon side. And there's blue. I'll show you what blue looks like. I don't really like blue too much on this particular page because it kind of bleeds. It kind of doesn't stand out. Lime. That stands out a little better. It's kind of an awkward page to have red and blue and purple and green, but I'm going to leave that just because it stands out a little better. All right. And that's that table row. Let's go on to the next table row. TD. Now this table data cell has an Unclick event. And the Unclick event does two things. It's got two statements. The first statement, all the way to the semicolon, says play clip 1. And the second statement says style.background color equals blue. So it's doing two different things when you click. The sound.javascript, here's that function. Function play clip 1 var audio equals document.getElement by ID sound 1. There's one statement, and the second statement is audio.play. So let's do it. Let's click it. I don't know if you could hear it that well, but you could hear me say the word apple and slowly spell out A-P-P-L-E, and it changed the background color to blue. Same thing happens with each one of these. Okay, it changes the background color to blue, and they're all talking at once, which is horrible. So I need to find a way to alter my code so that I can only play one at a time. If I click this and then I change my mind and I want to click this, this stops before this plays. I don't have that functionality yet, so if you're a kindergartner and you want to just click all these at once, you're going to hear this crazy 7 things reading all at once, and it's scary, horrible. So there's something I need to do yet, but let's go over how the play clip 1 functionality works really quick. I read the short function, but this doesn't show you how SND1 points to an MP3 file, and we need to point to an MP3 file in order to play it. So let's go to the A.html, and where the magic happens is actually at the end of the page. Let's go all the way to the end of the page, end of the HTML, end of the body. The first little magic snippet is this: div id equals sound div, and then another tag says bg sound id equals sound, and then you have the end of the div. We only need this one time, as I commented twice. This only needs to be here one time, this only needs to be here one time, but it does have to be at the bottom of the page, like right before the end of the body. Right above that, we have 7 audio tags. Now, these audio tags are not like this green audio tag. This green audio tag had an attribute in the opening tag that said controls. This, on the other hand, has an ID. So audio, ID equals, there's sound 1, SND1 for short. And inside those tags, we have this little ditty, source src equals, and this is how we point to the file we want to play. We jump out of the pages folder, we jump into the sound folder, and this is what we want to grab. Link to, access, however you want to think it, apple.mp3. Alright, so by clicking on this, we are going to call the function in this, and this function is going to grab, by using document get element by ID snd1, it's going to grab that, and then it's going to use this statement audio play, and it's going to play sound 1 is correlating to the apple.mp3 file. And all the rest of these are copy and paste repeats. They just have a different ID. This one's sound 2, and it will link or access able.mp3. This ID is sound 3, and it will enable ant.mp3 to play. SND4 will access ask.mp3. SND5 accesses mad.mp3, SND6 accesses sad.mp3, and SND7 accesses happy.mp3. So that's how we get that JavaScript to do that for this particular page with these 7 different words, and we have a total of 8 different MP3s. We have the MP3 file that this audio player will play, and we have these 7 different words. Actually, this is the same word, but it's a different snippet. The snippet up here is just going to say A is for apple. The snippet down here says apple, A-P-P-L-E, and so on and so forth. Okay, so each page has a total of 8 MP3 files. Let's go back up to the top of here. Let's see where I stopped at. Here's the audio tag TDTR. We already went over that. This one, TD Unclick. This is where I kind of lost my place. This Unclick, play clip 1, changes the background color to blue. We already discussed that. This is where I stopped. In between the TD tags, besides having an Unclick event that does 2 different things, in between those 2 tags we have the word apple. But it's not just A-P-P-L-E, because I wanted to highlight the A's in our A words the same, I didn't mean for that to happen, the same way that this picture highlights the A. And so in order to do that, I had to create a special tag and put it in my CSS and give it a color of red. So what I did is I created an R tag. There's the opening R tag, there's the closing R tag, and the A is right in between. So when I go to my style and I look for an R tag, right here, it's just a regular old R, I gave it the color of red and the font weight of bolder. So that's how I made every single one of my A's red. Alright, there's the end of that table data cell. Now, we did the apple, but we also have another table data cell right next to it. Even though it doesn't appear to be in the same row, this actually is. It's got a row span of 7. So the same way that these rows had a call span of 2, this is a row span of 7, because it goes count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This table data cell takes up 7 rows. So TD row span equals 7, class equals roundest. This is different because if you look at all of the blue borders, they all have pointy corners. This first table row in this table data cell has 4 pointy corners. This one with the audio tag has 4 pointy corners. Apple, able, ant, ask, mad, sad, and happy. Not happy, I take that back, not happy. I see it's got a rounded corner down there. But all the rest of these have pointy corners. I see that happy has 2 bottom corners that are slightly rounded. I only really needed to round the left-hand side. I didn't really need to round the right-hand side because there's no reason to round it. But this one, on the other hand, because the table has this rounded corner, I wanted to match the style. and give this particular table data cell the bottom right corner. I wanted it to be rounded. This is pointy up here, this is pointy up here, this is pointy here, but this one is not. So I created a class called Roundest. And if you look in here, there's a lot of different strange classes. Round bottom corners, round bottom left. I'm looking for something that I named Roundest right here. Dot Roundest. So just for that one particular table data cell, I gave it its own special little style. Border bottom right radius 35 pixels. So there we go. The blue border has that rounded edge. Inside this particular table data cell, we have an image, and you see it's the A with the apple and the word apple underneath. The image border equals 0, source equals dot dot, which means we're jumping out of the pages folder, we're jumping into the images folder, and we're grabbing a.jpg. We're grabbing that image called a.jpg. Title equals A means that if you hover over this image, you see the tooltip A pop up. Alt equals image link, which means if anything happens to this particular image, the words image link will be there to replace the picture. And class equals roundest. Again, didn't really need to give, oh yeah, I did. I gave it the same class that I gave the table data cell so that it would only have one rounded corner so that it would match the table's rounded corner, this one table data cell's rounded corner, and it would match it as well. It doesn't fit in there perfectly, but it was my way to round all those corners and try to match each other. End of the table data cell, end of the table row. All right, the rest of the table rows are really easy. Table row has one table data cell, and the rest of these, starting with able has one, ant has one, ask has one, mad has one, sad has one, and happy has one. All it has is an Unclick event that calls a certain function. This one's going to play clip 2, and they all are going to change their style dot background to the color blue, and then they're just going to have a different word in between. This one's able, and the R tag and the ending R tag are going to surround the A's. This is going to deal with play clip 3, and the word inside is going to be rant with the A's surrounded by R tags. Play clip 4 in this one, the word is ask. Play clip 5 in this one, the word is mad. Play clip 6 in this one, the word is sad. Play clip 7 in this one, and the word is happy. All right. And here's that note again. Oh, end of the table row, end of the table. So that's all the code to create this entire image with all these different things in it. Paste this code near the bottom of your page. We went over this already. These are how you access all of your MP3 files. We did this already. Audio ID equals sound 1, and that refers to Apple MP3. Sound 2 refers to Able MP3. Sound 3 refers to Ant MP3. Sound 4 refers to Ask MP3. Sound 5 refers to Mad MP3. Sound 6 refers to Sad MP3. Sound 7 refers to Happy MP3. There's that div ID equals sound div, bg sound ID sound, and div, and body, and HTML. The sound.js external JavaScript file, this function play clip 1 is just copied and pasted over and over again 7 times because every page is going to have 7 clips. So, play clip 1, play clip 2, all the way to play clip 7. And it doesn't matter that every page is going to talk about a different word and have a different MP3 file. This single sound.js with these different functions are all going to do the same thing for every single page of the alphabet. It's just going to look for this file, and it's going to find the name of the function that it needs, and it's going to identify it by an ID, and it's going to play it. It's that simple. So we don't need to look at sound.js anymore. And A.html we never have to look at again. If you can just imagine copying and pasting this entire page and then renaming it B.html and then just changing the names of the MP3s that you're dealing with, changing the words that you're dealing with, changing the image that pops up, changing this MP3 that refers to the image, and changing your backward and forward. Obviously, when you're on page B, let's pretend this A.html was B, your backward link is going to go to page A. So instead of this being Z.html for the backward link, it's going to be A. And when you're on B, obviously your forward link is going to change this to C. Because if you're on B and you want to go forward, you have to change that to C. So that'll change. And all the rest of this stuff is exactly the same. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I've basically showed you everything that you need to know as far as the individual alphabet pages. The last video is going to show you the home.html page, where on the left we have navigation and on the right we have an iframe, and based on the navigation you can open up any of these pages in that iframe.